Hey folks, it's Drift, Jared back with another devlog. So since the last devlog, we did the Bookla and Friends show. That was another great show. Thanks to Peter and his crew for putting that all together. It was great hanging out with everybody. Thanks to everybody that came up to the table and chatted. Great talking to you. So yeah, next up, straight out to the Hoff to go see Steve and talk about some injection molding stuff. This is kind of cool. This is a video simulation of the injection mold process for Zero's face and back. Both parts are in a single steel mold. The molten plastic comes up through this central sprue and fills the mold. In real time, this video is about 2 seconds. But yeah, you can see there's some really interesting stuff about this. In this area, these two areas, this area here and this area here, you can see that the plastic is cooling sort of as it moves into the mold. And so the thing that you want to be super careful about is that it doesn't cool too much so that when it comes around and meets, it doesn't actually fuse. You get what's called a weld line there. It's sort of one of the weird things that you got to think about when you're just designing the part. This stuff came up from a sketchbook. Here's some early sketches of Zero. This stuff starts in a sketchbook, but by the time it goes to the injection molder, there's a lot of different inputs on how this thing looks. And I just think that part of the process is super fascinating. There's a lot of engineering that goes into this stuff too. So on to software. From the last devlog, we had completed most of the infrastructure work. This time, taking that infrastructure as a platform, we started building software on top of that. It all sort of starts with this SDK. This is a public SDK, so you can find us on GitHub. We're just sort of openly developing it. So if you're curious, if you're somebody that's into this stuff, come check it out and make recommendations. You know, if you've got stuff that you want to see in here, please jump into the Discord and start talking about it. So the main effort for the last few weeks has been about getting the UI code into a place where we can start quickly iterating on features. Building out template views, building out an animation system, building out a menu system that sits on top of all that stuff. With that software in place, we can start bringing up some of the features of Zero. The earliest feature to go in is the boot mode system. You can use different key combinations to boot Zero into different modes. So for example, if I hold nav and play and turn the device on, I come up in a base level config mode, which gives me some settings, the ability to go and launch specific apps on the device. This is all the software that's currently installed here. You can get details you can remove. You can also set it as the default startup. So you can download installers, install software, set that as the default software running at boot, and basically change what Zero does when you turn it on. Here's a quick walkthrough of how installing an app on Zero works. Zero appears as a thumb drive. It has some default folders just right out of the box. You have an installers folder. And so it's just a simple drag and drop. Drop the installer. In this case, this would be an installer that you're able to download from the internet. Anybody can make these. The system to create these installers is part of the public SDK. Drag it onto Zero's hard drive, run through the installer flow, and your app will appear in the list. I should point out that you can use Zero without interacting with this system at all. If you're not somebody who's hyper technical or you just want a simple music device, just turning Zero on will launch the default app and it'll run normally. So aside from config mode and drive mode, there's also developer mode. If you plug the USB-C into your computer and boot Zero up in developer mode, Zero exposes a shell. Open your terminal emulator and connect away. As you can see, pretty standard Linux system. It's a lot like a Raspberry Pi. More on developer mode pending community interest. If people are super hyped about this, we'll start talking more about it. For now, it's a system that we're using to develop Zero, and we're just opening it up to see who might be interested and how they might be interested in using it. So if you're curious about this, again, jump into the Discord, follow us on the SDK, start talking about this stuff, and we'll be happy to say more about it. So that's it for this time. Next up is the music library. That's probably going to take a couple of devlogs to get through. There's a couple of interesting elements there. First is going to be creating a UI that is responsive while Zero is working away in the background, analyzing tracks. So doing things like beat grid analysis, BPM detection, all that kind of stuff. So after the analysis phase is complete, the other side of that is going back and editing all the data that comes out of the analysis phase. So things like edit UIs for all the ID3 tag data, adjusting BPM results, editing beat grid data. There's also going to be a tape edit UI, which comes into play once the recording UI is up. So stay tuned, folks. It's going to be an interesting spring. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.